Hey there! Before we start the podcast, I need you to put down that wavebird and listen up.
I need money.
For a tenth of what the price of that wireless GameCube controller costs,
That should be like $5 if you got it off Shop Goodwill.
you can support me here at the podcast of Two Consoles Too Late.
I need to buy more games.
Your support gets bonus content like additional episodes, Discord server access, typewriter manifestos, and personal shoutouts on the airwaves.
I actually have a typewriter.
Vote on Patreon polls to see what video game I talk about next.
Nothing on Atari 2600.
So go to patreon.com/2consoles2late because what the world needs is more stick it!
Hi, everybody.
Maybe what they're seeing and how they're seeing it, and also video games. I'm hearing more and more people say the level of violence on video games is really shaping young people's thoughts.
And constant crises have shaken the entire world and have threatened in each case to bring on the gigantic conflict, which is today, unhappily, a fact.
9 programmable weapons buttons. Customizable feedback software. Don't just buy a new video game. Make one.
He doesn't have a PlayStation 5.
That's because he's Two Consoles Too Late.
Hello and welcome to the Two Consoles Too Late podcast. I'm the host, Jackson Keebler, and I am Two Consoles Too Late. On this episode, we are looking at Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, the game that put parkour on the map before Assassin's Creed and all of its wall-running thunder. It's a game so good that they tried to remake it and then they never finished it. And also, my PS3 just got an update out of the blue. Going to talk a little bit about that. And where I used to think that I was Gen X, I am no longer. I am what is known as a Xennial. What's up with that? It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's go. So as the name implies, Two Consoles Too Late, I'm a little late to the party on many things. And I'm a little late to the party on what generation I'm a part of. I saw a social media post this week talking about Xennials, and I was like, what the hell is this? So I had to look it up. And Xennials, apparently, are a micro-generation considered to be those born between 1977 and 1983. That's me. All right, 1979. And they bridge the gap between Generation X and Millennials, experiencing a transition from analog to digital technology during their formative years. This is all from Google's AI overview. Xennials are a cusp generation, described as being on the cusp of Generation X and Millennials, meaning they are not one or the other. We saw the transition from analog to digital. Check. We have a unique perspective, blending traditional values with modern technological comfort. Okay, I'll guilty as charged. And they are often seen as more optimistic and adaptive than Gen X, but less digitally dependent than Millennials. So anyway, here's one last one. Xennials are sometimes referred to as the Oregon Trail generation or the lucky ones. I just think it's funny that Xennials are branded after a video game that I know quite well. And there's a great YouTube history on it. The Game and Historian does the history of the Oregon Trail. So if you have a chance, check that out. So I am not Gen X. I am now a Xennial. And I'll wear that tag proudly. I have no shame there, you know. And I tell you the truth, after reading the description, I think it fits quite well because my brothers and my sister, they're older than me, and they are definitely Gen X. And I find, you know, people a little bit younger than me, just there's something a little bit different. So here I am. I am a Xennial. So I went to go fire up the PS3 to keep playing some Assassin's Creed. If you didn't get a chance, check out the last episode where I talk about my experience with Assassin's Creed. And that is why I am here talking about Prince of Persia. But before I talk about Prince of Persia, my PS3 got an update. And I just was completely blown away. Start up the PS3 and it says, boom, you need a software update. I'm like, what? This thing is 19 years old. Why does it need a software update? Well, so I went to the interwebs and I found this article on GameRant.com written by Kyle Knight. It was published March 5th. Sony releases a surprise new update for the PS3 on March 5th. The latest software update brings the PS3 to version 4.92 with improved system performance. Update 4.92 also renews the Blu-ray player encryption key for the console, allowing users to continue using the disk drive. Sony has surprised gamers by releasing a brand new system software update for the PS3. The update brings the nearly 19-year-old console to version 4.92 and improves system performance while also renewing the PS3's Blu-ray player encryption key, which is a vital component that ensures players can continue to use the console's disk drive for games and movies. While the latest software update doesn't exactly make any exciting improvements to the console, it is an important one that all players should download and install if they want to continue using any sort of discs. While the company's latest consoles, the PS4 and PS5, also have a Blu-ray player, they do not need to receive system updates to renew their encryption keys. But with that being said, both the PS4 and PS5 still receive new updates regularly. Sony recently announced that it was testing new firmware patch for the PS5, which will include some minor improvements such as easier activity viewing, Unicode, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so this article is a little bit redundant in, what this update was all about. I just thought it was really, interesting that a 20-year-old console is getting an update. And I am on the side of physical media. I like to have the disc in my hand, and to continue playing PS3 games, I needed this update. So it didn't take long. It took about 10, 15 minutes, and I've seen no problems whatsoever. The only problem I'm having right now with my PS3 is that I've had it, I wouldn't say 19 years, but I've had it for at least 15, and it's getting a little noisy, so I might have to break down the PS3 and clean out the fan and get all that dust that's accumulated over the years. But if I do that, I will definitely put the updates here on the podcast. So if you have a PS3, fire it up and update that puppy. All right, so let's set the scene. The original Prince of Persia came out in 1989. It was developed by a Jordan Mechner. And basically, the development of that game, he rotoscoped his own brother to do the animations for that game. On YouTube, there's a wonderful sort of mini documentary of the making of that game with Jordan Mechner. I think it's done by Ars Technica. I'll put a link in the show notes if I can find it. But it's a wonderful documentary about the making of that game. And Jordan Mechner actually released a book called The Making of Prince of Persia. It's $14.21 on Amazon. I really kind of want to check that title out just to, thumb through it. Because he has like his original sketches and all that. And I am a proponent of game preservation and history. Anyway, so he develops the original Prince of Persia, and then in the early 2000s, Ubisoft picked up the Prince of Persia franchise. So in 2003, Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time was released for the PS2, Xbox, GameCube, and PC. Now, there was a slight error in my last podcast. I said it was only on GameCube and PS2. For that, I am sorry. It was released on other platforms. And it was developed by Ubisoft Montreal, and let's just say that they delivered something rather special. This is the game that started with parkour, not Assassin's Creed. This game introduced the fluid acrobatics, wall running, and the ability to rewind time if you messed up. And let's say, if you played this game, you probably messed up a lot, and that rewind feature helped a lot. But the game was not just a hit with players, the critics loved it. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time won several Game of the Year awards and scored a 92 on Metacritic, and it also launched a trilogy of games. The story of Prince of Persia is pretty bare bones. Not a lot of spoilers here. The game is 20 years old. You play as the prince. You have no name, you're just the prince. He's kind of like Aladdin, but if Aladdin had a magic sword and didn't sing as much. So the prince's dad attacks the Maharaja's kingdoms and steals some mystical treasures, including the Dagger of Time. The prince gets tricked by the scheming vizier, because it's always the vizier, just like in Aladdin, who convinces him to unleash the Sands of Time, and boom, everyone turns into sand zombies, except the prince, Farah, and the vizier, and some random dude and some puzzle about midway through the game. It's a little strange, but we'll give it a pass. So anyway, now it's up to Prince and Farah, the badass princess who actually knows what she's doing, to fix everything. But the gameplay and the mechanics of Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time is where the game truly shines. Once again, the game is full of parkour. You're doing wall runs, ledge grabs, death-defying leaps, and it's a little like Spider-Man, I guess. A medieval Persian Spider-Man. Anyway, the combat. Once again, the combat here is a little clunky. There's a lot of spinning and stabbing and hoping enemies don't surround you. But this is not a button masher. And when it comes to melee combat, especially I guess now with Ubisoft games, I'm a little tired of melee combat. I kind of want a gun and shoot you from a distance, because where I got really frustrated with Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time is the combat. As the game gets harder, of course, the enemies become more difficult, and it takes me a couple tries just to get through the combat and continue with the puzzles. But also there is the time rewind feature, and that's what makes this game quite unique. If you screwed up, you just, I'm playing on the GameCube, so you hold the L1 button, and the game rewinds up to 10 seconds, and you can kind of pretend that you never face planted off a ledge. I think without that, this game would have been very frustrating. But I would say that Ubisoft did nail the physics. Running up walls, it all felt natural. Pulling off acrobatic sequences, like jumping off ledges. I definitely felt that the physics and the controls of the prince were very, very well done. But the thing is that you actually had to think about your movement. You didn't just run and jump. You had to kind of plan your route and what moves you were going to make in order to reach certain places. And as you go through the game, you get a sword, and the sword can break open certain walls. And if you can find these, I guess, a secret area, and there's like a fountain, and that fountain expands your life bar. And that has been hugely helpful. I don't think I've found them all at this point in the game. At the time of this podcast, I did not finish the game. I'm only about 70% through the game. But I'm going to talk about my experience after I talk about the legacy and the influence of Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. Now, once again, Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, it did not just revive the old franchise, it laid the groundwork for Assassin's Creed. And I talked about that in the last episode, but I'll give it some lip service here again. Ubisoft took everything from The Sands of Time, the parkour, the historical setting, and the annoying melee combat, and put that all into Assassin's Creed. Once again, that was developed by Patrice Désilets at Ubisoft. But The Sands of Time spawned a trilogy of games. After Sands of Time came The Warrior Within from 2004. It was a little bit darker, apparently. And The Two Thrones from 2005. There was also a 2010 Prince of Persia Hollywood movie starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Gemma Arterton. Jake Gyllenhaal, I think we all know, especially from Donnie Darko. And if you don't know Gemma Arterton, she was a Bond girl. I think it was, I want to say, Quantum of Solace. And spoiler alert, she ends up dead and covered in oil. But the movie itself, I'll just say I watched it on Disney Plus, and it was action-packed, and it wasn't very good, but I think that's to be expected with any video game movie. Whereas the Assassin's Creed movie, I rather enjoyed with Michael Fassbender, which I didn't talk about on the last episode. So both Sands of Time and Assassin's Creed spawned movies. One movie was good, and one movie was not so good. And once again, there was supposed to be a remake. It was announced in 2020, but apparently it has been delayed, and now that game is missing in action, and I'd be very curious to see it. As I was playing Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, I was playing on the GameCube once again. I just felt that the game suffered graphically, just kind of being an older game, and I wished, hindsight being 2020, that I had picked up the PS3 trilogy with the quote-unquote HD graphics. So that's on my radar. That game is about $30, and we're going to see if we can find a copy on Auction Alerts.
Auction alert.
So a copy of Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time across all platforms. Not an expensive game. Just looking at price charting, the PS2 version, complete in box, is $10.72. The GameCube version is $16, so I overpaid by $4, but hey, support local businesses. Xbox, $11.82, and the Game Boy Advance came out on Game Boy Advance. I'd be curious to see that. Is $25.99, but the before mentioned PS3 Classic Trilogy Edition, that's Prince of Persia with Sands of Time, The Warrior Within, and the third game was at Two Thrones. That game is $29.84 on price charting. I did not find a copy of Sands of Time on the Shop Goodwills. I did find it for PS2 as a loose disc, and that auction has been going on forever. So this game is quite easily had. But there's one more auction that I want to talk about, and it's not on Shop Goodwill, and it's not on eBay. It's on a new website I found. I was cruising my social media this week, and I came across this free webinar series by this couple about flea market reselling or something like that. It was a resellers conference. So I thought, okay, I'll sign up for this, and I'll get 100 emails I don't want, which I did. I now have to unsubscribe. But, so I tuned into this webinar, and the first presenter is a lady talking about where to source things to resell. And she mentioned this website called ctbids.com, which I had never heard of. So, of course, I pull it up and I start doing some searches, and I search for video games. And lo and behold, there's really not a lot there. When you go to ctbids, to the website, they have like a logo, and it's like senior downsizing, or no, like a senior living transitions, downsizing, and estate sales. So once again, not a lot of video game stuff there, but I was bored and I did a search yesterday, and a Sega Dreamcast came up. Not just any Sega Dreamcast, the Sega Sports Dreamcast. So that is the black one with the Sega Sports logo on it. And it had two controllers. One's a crappy Mad Catz, and the other is the actual Sega Sports controller. So at the time of this podcast, there are 12 days, 5 hours, and 39 minutes left on this auction, and it is up to $32. My max bid is much higher than that, and I'll be curious to see if I actually win this. But to flip the Sega Sports Dreamcast, they go for like $200 on eBay, so not a lot of profit there, to the point where if I do win this auction, I would probably just keep this console. And I never wanted a Dreamcast in my life, but this is one of those, if I let it get away, I'm just going to be kicking myself. So I just found another hidey hole for video games. So when you do a search for video games, like if you do a nationwide search, yeah, a lot of stuff comes up and they do ship. But I just looked in the Baltimore metro region, and this Dreamcast came up. So anyway, fingers crossed, we'll see. So to wrap up my thoughts on Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, I'm enjoying the game. Once again, I'm only 70% through the game. I would like to finish the game. My only beeps with the game are the melee combat and the poor graphics. And once again, those graphics were updated on the PS3 Trilogy Edition, and we have yet to see any news of this remaster, quote unquote, from Ubisoft. And I would be very curious to see if and when that gets released. But that being said, the production schedule here at Two Consoles Too Late is a little light. I don't have another game to talk about. So if you have a game that you want me to talk about, get on the social networks, drop me a comment, send me a message, and suggest a game. And depending on the cost of the game, the availability of the game, and whether I have the hardware to play the game, I will definitely check it out. Any listener suggestions are welcome at this point. So once again, just go to Google and type in Two Consoles Too Late, and there I will be found. And so before we close out the podcast, I have another small announcement to make. No, this is not a convention. No, this regards my employment. I am once again in the employ of Goodwill and in the e-commerce division. I have a goal. I want to reach the upper echelons of Goodwill and change the face of e-commerce. And hopefully I will get there. But I'm super excited once again to get my hands on all those goodies that get donated to Goodwill and the strange stuff that you can find. But once again, get on to the social networks. Drop me a comment. Just go to Google, type in Two Consoles Too Late. What game should I play next? Tell me. I'm totally open to suggestions. But as always, have a good one. I love you. And goodbye. So at the time of this podcast, oh shit, gotta turn the heat off. Of video games or, not even electronics. So I did a search and, Jesus Christ, could you go away?